So today is all about homebrew games for retro consoles. Everyone knows indie hits like Undertale. They're hard to miss if you're part of the gaming world. But here we're diving into something special. Brand new games for old systems. And a lot of the time, these have a modern twist to them. These are passion projects by folks who adore these consoles and know them inside and out. If you're a bit skeptical about homebrew games, or if you love them, either way, this video is for you because once you play a good one, you'll see why there's so many people into them. And on this channel, we're all about the weird, the odd, and the unusual, especially homebrew games for retro consoles. So I thought, why not ask a bunch of YouTube creators to pick one homebrew game that they think is worth playing today? And the diversity in their picks was nothing short of fantastic. Even if you think you know the scene, there's likely something here for you. And who knows, you might just find your next need-to-play game. Speaking of favorites, you got a favorite homebrew game? Drop it in the comments so we can all check it out. Know someone who loves indie games? I would think this is the perfect video to share with them. So before we begin, big thanks to everyone who helped make this happen. Now, let's dive into those games.
How are you feeling? John Riggs here. This video is right up my alley because I am a huge fan of aftermarket homebrews, indie games, things of that nature. And if I was going to talk about any one game, man, there's so many great games you can choose from way back in the day, and even some ones that just came out a little bit ago. But I'm going to show some love to K-Han Games, Kevin Hadley, one of the OGs in Nintendo homebrewdom. So let's talk about Chum's adventure, The Quest for Pinky. That's right, there's a Pawn Stars game endorsed and licensed by Pawn Stars. I don't know if it's licensed, but at least made with approval, because this game was actually featured on the Pawn Stars TV show. It was. You could look it up yourself. And why wouldn't I talk about this game? Now, when it comes to homebrew, it's all about that inspiration. This game, well, I mean, it certainly resembles Kung Fu, doesn't it? Like, a lot of it. But what a fun idea. What a fun way to make a game where it's just like, okay, here we go. This is a game for Chum from Pawn Stars. It features Chum looking for his dog Pinky, and you have to just get rid of these annoying customers. There's like the old ladies, there's these kind of nerdy looking guys, there's these kids running all around. Later stages even have birds and ceiling fans that drop from the ceiling. But then the fun of the game is finding out who the bosses are at the end of the stages, because you know the bosses are going to be people from the TV show too, right? So when you make your way to the end of the stages, that's where you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be cool. So you see like who else is in this game, and you kind of laugh and chuckle a little bit about it too. And I mean, the game itself isn't that difficult, honestly, but just the fact that we can make a Nintendo homebrew game with approval of a current IP. Gotta understand that. There could have been a Pawn Stars game for the Nintendo DS. Was there? Maybe there was. You know, they could make a Pawn Stars game for like the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, but it's cool to see these new IPs on these older systems, if that makes sense. So very cool to see, very cool to have. A lot of great suggestions in this video. Definitely check out all of them. And thanks for having me, man. I can talk about homebrews all day. I usually do.
Hey there, my name is Ron, and Game Beaters hit me up saying, hey, we're making a video, a little collaboration on some homebrew games that, you know, are worth playing. And I know I'm kind of breaking the rules here, but today we're doing one for the ladies. Jane Austen's 8-bit adventure from Bitwise Reprise LLC. I just got this. I don't know anything about it. The guy who made this game sent it to me, and I figured, hey, let's debut it here. I thought the story behind the creation of this game was kind of interesting. The guy who made it, his name is Matthew Justice. He's got a name of like a superhero. He's a software engineer, and his wife likes Jane Austen novels and decided, you know what? He's going to work with his wife, as she's a big fan of Jane Austen. He's an engineer. He's going to make a game with his wife. So I thought that was kind of neat. Pop it into the retro USB AVS. Wouldn't have it any other way. She got sucked into an 8-bit freaking video game, yo. Hey, the jumping feels pretty good. This music is freaking sick, dude. Oh, hell yeah, we're getting a weapon. Okay, this is kind of cool, man. I don't know nothing about Jane Austen. So this is I. Oh shit. When do I get to fight some stuff, dude? Oh. Oh, the stages are the books? All right, now that I'm not lost anymore. Why does every game's gotta have bats, dude? Oh, there's a frog. If you read the book this stage is based on, was there bats and sheep and frogs. Oh, okay, so if you're interested, yeah, there you go. Freaking 8bitjane.com. You could play as Jane Austen, messing some things up. Controls are smooth. Gameplay is smooth. Kind of neat. There you go.
The immortal John Hancock here, and I've been asked, what is one of my favorite homebrews of all time? That's a tough one for me because, I have an extensive aftermarket and homebrew collection, and I had to think about this, and it boiled down to this. What was probably the most impressive one that I've played in most recent years? And I keep going back to this, and this is Ricki and Vicki for the Atari 7800. And this was a limited release. There was about 550 copies on physical released on the 7800. And there's a lot of people like, oh man, it's sold out. Where can I get this game? Well, the good news is you can't get the physical release anymore. And aftermarket prices for this are pretty expensive. But you can pick this up for $10 on Steam. And so that is what I recommend, is checking this out on Steam. And why is this a great homebrew game? 100 levels. It's 1 or 2 player. It's like a puzzle platformer, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It really pushes the envelope for what the 7800 was capable of. Now, it does have an extra audio chip on the actual physical release. But, for some people that think that that's cheating, there was a lot of Nintendo releases that had extra chips in the cartridges to push the capabilities of that. So I think this is a wonderful and absolutely brilliant release. It has a cinema before and telling the story. You play one of 2 characters. There's different modes in the game itself where it's a totally different game. There's boss fights. There's a lot to enjoy about this release, and it's absolutely one of my most favorite aftermarket releases of all time. Definitely, if you have a Steam account, check it out. It is compatible on the Steam Deck, even though it doesn't say it is. I just checked it out on my Steam Deck, no problem. You have to configure your controller. No big deal. Highly recommend it.
What's up, guys? Russ Lyman here, and we're talking homebrew games, and I certainly love picking up new games for retro system. And we got right here Batty Zabella. Just looking at the box, this game looks awesome. Obviously, it takes some inspiration from Elvira with the sexy lady on top here. This is put out by Retro Room, and you get a full box for the game itself, manual inside, which looks fantastic, and even the cart itself is green. I love the way it looks sticking outside the back of my Game Boy. Well, let's get into some gameplay. With her family home haunted and no one else she deems worthy to take on the phantoms, it's your job to scour Batty Zabella's house and solve the puzzle, ridding her home of those terrible entities once and for all. Don't be expecting any accolades for your endeavors. Batty doesn't offer much in the way of praise, but if sass is what you're hoping for, she has that in an abundance. Can you help Batty Zabella solve this eerily sinister case, or will she also fall victim to the phantoms haunting her home? So this plays like a point-and-click adventure game, and again, it has that sass with the story. Should I get dressed? No way. Well, enjoy the view while you can. Game ain't started until I do. Such a fun time. I live streamed this and went through it and had a good time playing it. It probably took me about a weekend to complete the game. I did get stuck on some parts. Oh, what was that? What was the the castle? The number on the castle. But it wasn't that difficult, and I'm super excited to have it in my collection. I just love that there are new games coming out for retro systems, and I really don't see anyone developing stuff for the Game Boy. So definitely don't pass on this one. Head over to Retro Room and see if you can grab yourself a copy of Batty Zabella. All right, let's check out the next entry.
Hey everybody, Jay here from Square Pegs, and when Dan asked me to be on this video, I was super excited. He asked me about homebrew games, and there's one in particular that I absolutely love, and I want to show it to you. This is The Cursed Knight. This takes place in a futuristic world, and it plays a little bit like Mega Man. It's an absolutely fantastic title with a wonderful difficulty in play here that just sings. The game is wonderful. It is exactly what you want an aftermarket Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive game to be. It's picture perfect. This is one I backed on Kickstarter, but you're able to find it pretty much anywhere. So I strongly urge people to check this one out. It's one of my favorite games. It's a super challenging and super fun game, and it has an absolutely brilliant design. The Cursed Knight is amazing.
What's up, everyone? You got Tiger Chainsaw here, and I wanted to show off a physical homebrew for a system that does not get enough love. I'm talking about the Flight of Pigarus on the Master System. So the first thing that you are probably going to notice is how gorgeous this game is. It is incredible what Two Minds was able to do when creating this game. But this game is just as fun as it is beautiful. This shoot 'em up has plenty of flavor. You're gonna be a little pig with wings, flying around and shooting everything in sight. The colors really pop in this game, and the game has a lot of action on screen. Now, every shoot 'em up has to have some awesome boss fights, and thankfully, Flight of Pigarus has those. Look at some of these huge bosses for this homebrew. This game is fast, it's fluid, and it is a must-have for any Master System collector who loves homebrews.
Hey, what's up everyone, Game Dad here, and my pick for a super standout indie game has got to be Choo Choo Mimic. Now, it is a new game being released by John Riggs, and it's already actually winning awards. The game is just puzzle action at its finest. It has a lot of those old school Mole Mania vibes to it. It's got great music going, it's challenging gameplay. What's cool is there is more than one way to beat each level. Now, sometimes there's only one way you're gonna get a level beat, but sometimes you can find different paths to accomplish the same goal. The game is super fun, it's super addicting, and it has a ton of levels. As you go through, it really starts to ramp up the difficulty, where you're going from using 1 night to 2 nights, 3 nights, and it is just an awesome game and super fun to play.
So hi, here I am, Dan B from the Game Beaters, and of course you're gonna get my opinion on a homebrew game that I think is worth playing today. All these other guys have great picks so far, right? And they all have their own reasons for why they pick what they pick. So let's go over my pick, The Legends of Owlia for the NES. So I'm often asked about my favorite homebrew game, and while I don't have a single favorite, there's one I'm already nostalgic for, and that game is Legends of Owlia. Why? Well, it was the first NES homebrew that really felt like a genuine NES game to me. It wasn't the first. I had played other titles like Battle Kid, but Legends of Owlia truly felt like it belonged to the NES era. Like many games from the time, the gameplay was thoroughly enjoyable, and I wasn't disappointed at any point. So what is Legends of Owlia about? Well, it's somewhat of a nod to Legends of Zelda. You play as a character who's armed with a sword and accompanied by Taito, who is your trusty owl sidekick. At first, Taito acts like a boomerang in Legend of Zelda, where you can use him to attack the enemies and retrieve items. But as the game progresses, Taito gains more and more abilities, such as transporting you from one place to another. This game is filled with exploration and puzzle solving across various maps and dungeons. Plus, the soundtrack is as captivating as anything else from the NES era. Now, the controls are nuanced, and like Legend of Zelda, they might not be perfect, but they're exactly what you need for this particular gameplay. The game isn't overly difficult, but it offers a decent challenge. My first playthrough took about 4 hours, which I think is ideal for a NES game. In fact, I think it's one of the system's benefits. So in the end, Legends of Owlia reminded me of why I fell in love with the NES era. For anyone looking to recapture that gaming magic or discover what dedicated fans can create, Legends of Owlia is a must-play. It really is a heartfelt nod to the past, crafted with care and detail that only modern NES developers, who are also enthusiasts, can provide. And there you have it, The Legends of Owlia for the NES. If you're looking for a copy of this game, it's not available anywhere but the secondhand market, and it's crazy priced, but you can download it free, and I'll leave a link below so you can find it. And I think you'll find this next one really interesting.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching, and Dan from the Game Beaters, thanks for having me on, man. Dude, I've been a fan of the Game Beaters for a while now. I always like to watch their streams too on Tuesday nights. But he asked me what my favorite homebrew game was, so I immediately thought of my friend, the immortal John Hancock. and he made this awesome game called Block'em Sock'em. It's super fun. It's a puzzle game, 25 unique puzzles, and dude, you gotta like use your noggin, man. If you don't, like, you'll run out of pieces and the level's over quick. So you really got to plan ahead on what you're going to do each time you're playing this. It's a one-player game, but that's all right by me because I'm a one-player dude. So this is definitely a favorite of mine, and I'm really happy that I could share this. And you can get this on Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and I think a few other platforms. But also, he sells them digitally too on a USB stick as well. So if you ever see him at any of the expos and stuff, make sure you hit him up for a copy of this. Thanks for having me on the channel, the Game Beaters, Dan, and thanks to the immortal John Hancock. Who, by the way, he actually signed this copy for me too, so that makes it even sweeter for me. But yeah, hey everyone, thanks for watching, and take care.
Hello everyone, Dr. Scott from the Game Closet here, and one of my absolute favorite homebrew games for the mighty Atari 2600. It is called Fall Down, and I got my copy from AtariAge.com a few years ago, and it came with this beautiful full color manual. Remember color manuals? Some companies still include one because they are cool. Fast-paced, screw your opponent over fun has never been this intense on the Atari 2600. Play against a friend or the CPU as you try to jump down the next platform. Being first to the next platform earns you a point, and there are even power-ups along the way. But don't get caught at the top of the screen because an instant death awaits you. With 8 modes to challenge 1 or 2 of you and tons of addictive fun, you won't get bored by this title very easily. Fall Down is still available for purchase on AtariAge.com for around $30 plus shipping, so grab yours today, and thanks for having me on.
Hey everybody, Captain Algebra here. I want to thank Dan from the Game Beaters for inviting me to be on this video. Now, just a couple of years ago, I was pretty much against homebrews. I didn't really see the point of them. I thought I'd much rather spend my money on actually licensed games because they're probably better. And boy, was I wrong. There is a lot of crappy licensed games out there, and there are a lot of amazing homebrew games out there. So the game I want to talk to you about today is my favorite that I've played, and that's not many, but it is extremely polished and an extremely good game for the NES, and that is Twin Dragons. So Twin Dragons came out in, I believe, 2017 from Broke Studios, and you get to play as Dinky and Minky, who are 2 dragons who are waiting for their new sibling to hatch out, but a sorcerer shows up and steals it. So they have to go save the day. So this is a pretty traditional platformer. You go around the levels, you can collect peppers. Every 100 peppers gives you an extra life. Dinky is the green dragon, and he has the ability to swim. He also has the ability to get a power-up so he can fire larger fireballs. So you have to I think it's who you hold up and hit attack, and it'll do that. And then later in the game, you become Minky, who has the ability to fly. Now, Minky cannot shoot big fireballs. However, it does get an ice power-up that can freeze enemies, which is very, very helpful. And then eventually, towards the end of the game, you actually get the ability to switch between the two on the fly, depending on the situation, because Minky cannot swim. So if you try and go in water with Minky, you're going to die. And obviously, Dinky cannot fly, so you're going to need some spots where you have to fly. So it's extremely polished. It's pretty similar to other platformers on the NES, actual licensed games. You know, you got your levels, you got your boss fights. Boss fights are very heavily pattern-based, right? You figure out the pattern, you're going to be able to beat it. The game is not super tough. There are tough moments. It definitely picks up in challenge as the game goes on. I believe I streamed it in one night in 2.5 to 3 hours, something like that. So you can easily get it done in one sitting, depending on how much time you have. Definitely in one day. It has passwords, which is awesome. But it's a very fun game. And this is one of those games I'm glad I really eventually tried and kind of opened up to when it comes to homebrew. So I learned about this from my buddy E.C. Myers. He streams a ton of NES homebrews, and this is one that always looked really good. So I finally pulled the trigger and bought it, and I could not be happier. I'm sure at this point, you know, it's been, I think, like I said, 7 years since this game came out. I'm sure most people know about it. Most people have probably played it that are in the homebrew community. But if you're new to the homebrews, you haven't played it, it is one I highly suggest. Like I said, it is very polished. It could easily have been an actual licensed NES game, and it is better than so many licensed NES games out there. It's a must-play in my opinion. You like platformers, you like the NES, you gotta play it. So thank you so much again to Dan B from the Game Beaters for asking me to be a part of this. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to hearing about more homebrew games that I need to check out.
Rollie is a 2019 NES side-scrolling platformer by Chris Lincoln, aka Optivania, a longtime developer who's best known for his Castlevania ROM hacks, The Holy Relics, and Chorus of Mysteries. Rollie is his first completed homebrew programmed entirely from scratch at 6502 assembly. So what is Rollie? Rollie is what you would get if Raccoon Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog were somehow merged in a transporter malfunction. He can run, he can jump, he can curl up into a little ball and bounce. Weirdly enough, Rollie really loves to roll, and he can zap enemies while he does it. He also loves picking flowers, to give him heart refills, items, and power-ups. While Rollie's main attack is to toss marbles at his enemies or stomp them, he can also blow bubbles that he can use as platforms to reach higher places. Or he could grab a balloon to traverse a stage and drink different sodas that make him float, pound the ground, or even walk on air. He can also bully ducks into giving him a ride. There are a lot of ways to get through the game's 16 stages and bosses, facing enemies along the way like snakes, foxes, ducks, opossums, and, of course, bats. Don't want to fight? You can avoid enemies, or maybe make some new friends. Rollie was programmed to fit onto a 40 kilobyte cartridge just like Super Mario Bros., and despite its small size, it has the same amount of complexity and charm as the game that inspired it, with lots of secrets and diverse stages that become increasingly challenging as the game progresses. Fortunately, there are checkpoints and passwords, so it's more fun than frustrating. Everyone seeking a pure NES experience should get this game. Digital copy is only $9, but if you want a cartridge with a box and a 30-page manual illustrated by Daniel Adams, you can order it from the 6502 Collective.
Well, that wraps it up. Big thanks to all the creators who helped make this video possible. I know that there's so many homebrew games worth playing for all the consoles out there, and I'd love to hear what you think is one of the best ones worth playing today. Leave a comment down below, and we'll see you soon.